You're now listening to the Something Good Podcast Network. Please press any key to continue.
Hello everyone, this is Chris from the COUCH BROTATOS. I am here with the co-host of the CRYPTID CONSPIRACY CULT,
Mr. Quinn.
Quinn Riley. Today on this episode of the COUCH BROTATOS, we'll bring you something a little bit different. We just finished watching the new series on Netflix, the Jeffrey Dahmer story, all 10 episodes.
Yeah, binge watched it.
Yeah, it's a little rough.
It was. My wife watched about 8 episodes with me, and like she was kind of into it, but then she kind of fell off at the 9th. But like the whole time, I'm like sitting there just glued to the television. So.
Yeah, the 9th and 10th, Lionel, which is about his dad, and then the God of Forgiveness, God of Vengeance episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, going on to this series. Did you know much about Jeffrey Dahmer before this series?
The only thing I really knew was the general facts. Milwaukee-based, killed. I forgot how many victims, but cannibalized 17. I couldn't remember. I knew it was over 11 people, but murdered 17 men, cannibalized most of them. Also used a power drill and fucking hydrochloric acid in a syringe or boiling water in the said syringe to insert into the person's brain in order to try to control them. Did that 4 or 5 times over?
Yes. So this series came out this year on Netflix. It was a 10 episode miniseries starring Evan Peters from American Horror Story as Jeffrey Dahmer, Molly Ringwald as his stepmother, Niecy Nash as one of Dahmer's neighbors, and Richard Jenkins from Step Brothers and some other stuff.
Stop letting Richard Jenkins raise children.
Yes. Which became the meme real quick throughout the series. But yeah, this actually follows Conversations with the Killer, the Jeffrey Dahmer tapes that Netflix had released same year.
They're actually releasing it in, I think it's October 2nd it gets released.
Yeah. So it was like a double release. What also got released around this time was the Gacy tapes.
Yes.
I watched a little bit of that. I'm not a big, I don't want to say it like this, but like I'm not a big fan of this serial killer or that serial killer, like they're fucking NBA players or something. But like the John Wayne Gacy one, I think is kind of overdone a little bit.
I think so too, but I feel like the reason why he was so overdone is because of how prevalent he was in that local community, especially the position that he was in as a chair member or a district captain for the Democratic Party.
Yeah. Do you remember a woman who ran for president, Michelle Bachmann?
Yes.
So she's got a funny story. Well, she doesn't have a funny story. She's an idiot. But she said Jesus chose her to run this country. She had went on the campaign trail and said, "Hey, I'm from the same hometown as John Wayne." Not exactly. It was John Wayne Gacy. But she said John Wayne. And so when the people typed in their whole hometown, it's just like a big giant sign, population this many, get fucked, John Wayne Gacy's from this fucking place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bobo the Clown.
Yeah. And you were talking about like he was a big Democrat, and I just kept thinking about Ted Bundy being a big Republican.
Go figure, but they both had those charismatic personalities. They were more sociopathic, more prone to emotional outbursts.
Barry Goldwater killed so many.
I have all the secrets.
Jimmy Carter builds a house for every sin he commits.
He fertilizes his peanut plants with the bodies of those who've wronged him.
Yes. But yeah, so this was actually really exciting when I kind of first saw it, because I was reading some of the reviews. Me and Alex actually sat here and kind of blasé watched it. I ended up finishing the rest of the show the next 2 days. The cast list is actually quite small, considering it's only a core characters of about 5 people: Jeffrey Dahmer, his father, his grandmother, his stepmother, and his neighbor. These are basically the big characters in the show.
Yeah.
Everyone else is either killed, murdered.
Now, this series, I did enjoy that they put a lot of emphasis on a lot of the victims. Like, they really made them stand out, the families, the people that were affected by his killing. So it wasn't just a one-way linear type of story. It wasn't like shockingly vile, wickedly evil with Zac Efron playing Ted Bundy.
Yes, so Zac Efron played a really good Ted Bundy.
Very good Ted Bundy. I was very impressed by that. Especially even the court scene with John Malkovich. They had good chemistry.
Yeah. But yeah, so like I said, this was a 10-part miniseries. Going into some of the episodes, let me just pull these up here. I just want to make sure.
Oh, you're fine, man.
In episode 1, it's right before he gets arrested. It's debuting. So he's actually in the middle of hunting, basically.
Yeah.
In this episode, which was a very good episode to start off with. It kind of gives you a dynamic of what was going on in the kind of the gay scene of Milwaukee at the time. Kind of where he set himself up, and then everything else is just exposition on how he got to this point.
Yeah, it starts at the end and works its way through. It's like it plays him backwards and then wraps it up at the end.
Yeah, if you ever see the movie The Other Guys, where Steve Coogan's, he's like, well, let me just begin the story at the beginning.
Well, it would be better to start at the end and then
periodically work our ways in, kind of create like a Rashomon.
You're stalling. Just tell us where the files are.
Do you want to see Jersey Boys?
Damn it, he did it again.
Yeah. Wait, the Steve Coogan storytelling is fucking awful. You can't say shit. He was in Hamlet too.
I love him as an actor.
Underrated. He'd be funny in this.
Oh, hell yeah.
As a cop.
What are you doing? Don't even get rid of his British accent.
Yeah,
keep
just eating people. So we actually get into one of his possible victims.
Was it Tracy?
Tracy Edwards.
Yes,
Tracy Edwards. I had actually... So there was a movie called Dahmer before this came out, starring Jeremy Renner as Dahmer. Yeah. And what's his name? Eddie Griffith played Tracy Edwards in the movie.
Holy shit. Yeah, that was one of there's like 4 different ones. There was that one, and then there was another film that came out in the early 2000s as well.
The guy that made the Dahmer movie was the same guy that did the Ted Bundy movie, which is kind of a fucked up movie too. But,
that's the one where they shave his head and everything before they put him in the chair.
And they do the whole executioner takes off her mask and it's a woman.
Yeah.
It's like, that's not quite true. That was just for effect. But yeah, so in this in this episode, it's mainly Mr. Edwards escaping Ted or Jeff. Jeff, Ted, Gacy, I don't know if I could say.
They're all the same.
Victims of circumstance.
Oh my god, they did the darndest things, you know.
The darndest things. But the kind of like going into like the main part of this episode was him escaping, and no one listening to him. Like it kind of shows kind of the bareness of even in a city that this man's half naked running down the road yelling for help, but no one's helping him. And it kind of sets the stage for the whole series of these victims, that all these people were going missing and no one's helping, no one's actively looking.
Even plays the 911, one of the 911 calls, and also dramatizes the other 911 calls that neighbors had made about him and about any investigations, and the Milwaukee Police Department wanted no part in it. And
another thing, he's very out of place.
Yeah.
In this apartment building that he lives in. This is in a poor part of Milwaukee, mainly, black only almost in this, and he's the only guy that kind of does it. I'm not saying doesn't belong, but is off the setting a little bit.
It's one thing for him to stand out. I didn't mean to cut you off, but it's one thing for him to stand out, but it's his personality that puts him as very off-putting.
Yes, he is a very weird individual.
Yeah.
He seems like the way the way Evan Peters portrays him, it seems like he needs attention, but he tries to get it in a more fucked up fashion. We kind of see that later on in this show with the school In a way, he's able to make friends, if you will.
In a way, it's kind of like the basis of Patrick Bateman in American Psycho. Why anywhere he goes, he's often ignored. So then he starts killing outright. Yeah,
Patrick Bateman. Yeah, so like that's a wild story. The whole Patrick, what the fuck are you talking about, man?
And like that was one thing that hit me, where it's like, oh my god, none of these people really listen to him, or they get him mixed up with somebody else.
Yeah,
you know, it's kind of like it's kind of like Dahmer in this series too, where it expresses that he faded into the background. Nobody really paid much attention to him, and if they did, it was never really with good intention.
And we do get a little bit of his childhood in the first episode. Not much, but that carries on to the going on.
You could always watch my friend Dahmer for like a context of his childhood, because they blended that movie in a good way. Like some of those scenes were very reminiscent of that film.
My Friend Dahmer is actually based off a graphic novel.
No shit.
Yeah. So that movie was very elaborate into the late teens. Of Dahmer. But in the next episode, just going straight to it, it's all childhood. Just about.
Yeah.
The Please Don't Go episode. It's years before, and we see that his mom has some sort of psychosis.
I think she was a paranoid schizophrenic.
Yes.
I think she had severe schizophrenia.
And she was taking quite a lot of different prescription drugs while she was pregnant with Jeff, because his father brings it up during a doctor's session with her and him, and said Jeff had started becoming weird after he had hernia surgery, which that's when the cops brought the dad in. He was trying to kind of explain away what's going on with the son, because at that point he doesn't really know what's going on when the cops bring him in. This has happened before.
Yeah.
And so he's just like, oh man, maybe he exposed himself, maybe he tried to touch a kid or something again. And his dad kind of plays it off a little bit. It gives his son multiple chances.
I feel like Lionel was really trying to be a good father from what happened, and he just didn't want to believe that his son was capable of this, because when you see his childhood in some of these scenes, and even reading into him, his mother and father would have these fights, like full-on screaming matches that could turn violent at any moment in front of him. He would always catch glimpses of it. His father would walk out of the house, storm out, but his father was also the one who kind of got him into the concept of taxidermy and cutting things open, dead animals to start off with.
Yeah, we had did a deep dive on him on our True Crime series we had, and we kind of brought up an idea of, is it nature or nurture? And I had put out the idea of it's a little bit of both, kind of creating this monster. With him being a fetus, being exposed to all of these barbiturates, antipsychotics, basically just harmful drugs. When he's born, there's the nature part of it, but the nurture part of it being almost a semi-broken home, with the dad leaving all the time, the mom kind of comatose, kind of dipping out here and there. And you kind of get a really visceral scene of that, where there's like a baby crying constantly, and his mom is just, you think she's dead.
Yeah.
Like I thought for a second they were going to show his mom being dead. I'm just like, that isn't.
She never died. Like,
she's tough.
But she attempted suicide God knows how many times, like throughout the time, to the point that when she attempts again, Richard Jenkins just stops typing for a minute, goes, oh, well, I better call him, talking about his other son, Michael.
Yeah, we don't actually hear much about Michael, the brother, which is probably a good thing. Yeah. So we do see the detectives, Murphy and Kennedy. Murphy's played by Michael Beach, who has a pretty good career in television stuff. Some of the stuff he's like in that show. He's in a lot of television dramas and stuff, and he always plays either a really, really bad cop or a really, really bad villain who's really dumb, which I thought was funny. I was like, holy shit, it's that guy. But Evan Peters, what did you think of Evan Peters portrayed as Dahmer?
He looked exactly, whoever was in their makeup department did a great job, but of course he milked that with his voice. He honestly captured the voice and mannerisms of Dahmer to a T. Even like he watched plenty of interviews, probably listened to him speak God knows how many times to get that voice perfect, because that Milwaukee accent's a very unique accent. It's like Chicago and Canada like mixed together. it's like the upper Midwest accent, but it's got a little bit more of a twang to it.
Yeah.
And I honestly think that's because most of that area was dairy farms.
We're also kind of introduced, and I'm probably going to butcher the name, Canarek, Sufanusumphone.
Oh, yes. Good. Yeah, basically Canarek. That was the only thing you got wrong. The name was on point.
Sufanusumphone. He's actually the younger brother of a victim of Dahmer's. And we kind of see that when he's talking to him. He lures him to the house, which, first of all, had to be one of a million shot, considering he is the younger brother of a victim of that man, of, said Jeffrey Dahmer.
And that was back when Jeffrey was drugging people before he would lead them to his house, because up until that point, he was killing people in a hotel room.
Yeah, so his brother had escaped back home, which was very lucky.
Yeah.
Jeffrey Dahmer, in the series, they kind of show him using Halcyon, which is a barbiturate.
Yeah.
That he learned in the Army when he was training to be a combat medic, which that didn't last long.
No.
I'm still kind of curious how he got an honorable discharge, honestly.
I feel like his dad might have pulled some strings.
But still, I don't know, drugging soldiers and taking pictures of them, that's not good.
Who knows? I mean, it's really up to the government's discretion. Maybe somebody, because a lot of this is also the incompetence of even people around him. Law enforcement bodies, governmental bodies, even bodies in refrigerators. But, different points of authority kind of failed in reprimanding him in a lot of ways. Especially considering his first crime, his sex crime against this boy's brother. He didn't do any time.
Yeah, they do go, so Canarek is actually speaking with Dahmer in his home and says, "Hey, I know you." And Dahmer, you kind of see the way Evan Peters plays him is actually kind of surprised for a second, like, oh shit, this one ain't gonna work out. And he kind of plays it off as like, look, your brother lied to get some money out of me, blah, 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 blah. And he tries to play this little sob story a little bit, which kind of goes a little bit in contrast to what he said to people, where it's a compulsion, which I totally believe. I do believe that he had a compulsion to kill.
It's like drug addiction in a way.
Yeah.
But murder.
And, the drinking and drugs didn't help on top of all that.
I didn't that was one thing I never knew about him. I didn't know he drank that much. I didn't know he was a raging alcoholic.
Yeah, so in letters and stuff, especially stuff that his father had wrote down of some of the stuff he said he drank to kind of get that shit out of his brain. He drank to kind of numb it a little bit. That's why in the later episodes he takes Halcyon and drinks and ends up kind of fucking himself up later on.
Yeah.
But in the linear story, yeah, he's always been a drinker. Just to keep that kind of like dull the senses, dull the compulsion. That
again branches from his childhood because he was a teenager. I'm sorry, I still love that fucking scene where he's in his classroom and he just starts drinking a fucking Budweiser.
Yeah.
Jeffrey, are you drinking a beer?
Hell yeah, I am.
Budweiser, cool, refreshing.
Yeah, cool, refreshing.
The commentator, the announcer from the Chicago Cubs drinks them all the time.
I'll go to that. I was telling Cap, if you ever seen a Modelo commercial, they're playing fucking Ecstasy of Gold from fucking The Good, Bad, and the Ugly. I'm just like, stop doing that. Stop playing fucking Ennio Morricone fucking music while trying to get me to drink a Modelo.
It's Modelo time, fool.
Fool. Hey, Holmes. That's what they do. That's how they need it.
Yeah.
People who actually drink Modelo. Hey, Holmes, grab you a beer.
It's Modelo time.
And then one guy just shows up with the Ducati. He's like, hey, Holmes, what you got there? I'm variety.
You better chill the fuck out, what I say.
Oh shit, Holmes. But before this turns into something else. But yeah, so like he did drink quite a bit. They do show some of the stunts he tried to pull in school.
Yeah.
A little bit more. But we also get father-son time with Dahmer in this episode, where he's fascinated by dead things. which his dad kind of gets him on that path where they get like a dead raccoon out from under the house or something, a possum.
Yeah, they find a dead raccoon on the side of the road.
Yeah, but the dad actually, knows what he's talking about when it comes to this kind of thing. It was like taxidermy.
Yeah.
And that's how, like, he created this compulsion and then found a hobby and then put the two together, which is more fascinating than anything. You kind of see it in, like, 80s horror movies of, like, House of Wax or something like that.
Shit, it's even like The Collector.
Yeah.
For The Collection. He's an etymologist that kills people and makes them into insects, essentially.
Yeah, that's more of a wild set of horror.
Yeah.
That was kind of wild. It kind of reminds me, that same ending is the same ending kind of reminded me of Hellfest.
A little bit, yeah. Very open-ended. The
Yeah.
second one, too, the sequel, Collection, was kind of open-ended also.
And out of episode 1 and 2, we're introduced to his neighbor, played by Niecy Nash. Niecy Nash is famous for playing one of the deputies in Reno 911.
That's where I know her from.
Yeah.
I was like sitting here going, where do I know her from? Her voice, the way she's...
Hey.
Yeah, now I remember. Oh my God.
Yeah. Niecy Nash is a fantastic actress.
She's
that
in this
range
is amazing.
And this one right here, she did a fantastic job.
Oh, she killed that shit.
Seeing her in this and then remember Reno 911, I'm just like...
Not even the same person.
Not even the same person. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. And like some of those people from Reno 911 actually went off and did some other stuff. The blonde chick from Reno 911 ends up playing the mom in the Goldbergs.
Oh shit, that's right.
Yeah.
The guy who played Dangle played in The Odd Couple, the modern rendition, and a bunch of other
He was
films.
a big like mainstay Comedy Central actor.
Yeah.
He was in Viva La Comedy.
That's right.
Before us. Going into the next one, doing a Dahmer. This one is the one with the they're in the high school.
Yep.
And hey, Dahmer, do that thing, and he's basically pantomiming a disabled man, and then he kind of takes a little bit too far where he starts pantomiming his mother in the same way.
He quotes like his parents having an argument, like his father telling his mother to put the knife down because he saw
Put the knife down, Joyce. Put the knife down. And they're kind of like, they stop for a second. And it's just like, what the fuck? And we also get to see his interest in dissection because in the science class they're dissecting a frog.
Pig. It was a pig in that one.
It was a pig?
It was a baby pig.
Yeah, that's right. It was a pig.
That's what threw me off.
No, it's actually, I got a funny story about fetal pigs.
They really used to dissect fetal pigs?
Yeah, so I worked at the science department as a TA in Mitchell College.
Right.
I was a history major, so there's no reason for me to be in there.
Out of place.
But they needed someone to wash dishes and laminate tests. So a shipment had came in, and the woman, it was weird working in the science department because she was the head of the science department, but her sister, who's a twin, also worked in the science department as another teacher. So I'm trying to tell them apart was fucking a bitch and a half because they still look exactly the same even as adults.
What do you teach chemistry? What does your sister teach chemistry?
One's chemistry, one's biology. Like it was very fucking hard to tell them apart.
What do you teach again?
But one of them was the head of the whole department.
Holy shit.
So a shipment had came in of dissection specimens, and they were in boxes and laminates and stuff like that. And they have a very odd smell. Not of like rot or decay. It's just like it's a very odd smell. Like if I was to smell it again, it's one of those things immediately, like ashes or winter. That crisp smell of fresh air, but it's cold as shit. You're from up there.
Oh yeah, dude, it's great when you got a fever.
So I opened the boxes because I had to put them on a rack. It's baby sharks. They were supposed to be pigs, and I go back over there to talk to the head lady, and it wasn't her. We got to go mixed up again, and because she led me on too. She's like, all right. First of all, no, you need to talk to William. She's next door.
Why the fuck didn't you say that to start off?
Like twins play this shit. But anyway, I tell her, she's like, hey, I think we had a mismatch on the boxes. I opened them up like you said. It's not that, and she fucking came at me like, do you not know what you're looking at? Like I couldn't tell the difference between a baby shark and a fetal pig. Like fun fact, a baby shark is very dark blue and gray. A fetal pig is bright as fuck when it's wrapped in fucking cellophane or whatever it's in.
And I mean, there's also the obvious physical attributes that
4 legs and a pigtail. and a snout, and it looks like a baby.
Oh, Jesus Christ, it's Wilbur.
Yeah, basically, I had Babe right there. That'll do. That'll do, pig. But, yeah, so they just, like, at that time, yeah, it was just kind of surreal picking up and it didn't bother me. Like, I think that's why I got the job, basically, is because stuff like that didn't bother me.
No, it didn't bother me either. Like, we dissected cow's eyes and stuff like that. But
we did a cow's uterus.
No shit.
Yeah, and,
I heard about
animal
that.
Science.
A couple of people, actually, friends of mine have done that from their animal science class, too, of all things.
Yeah, animal science was anything you took that was FFA affiliated.
Oh, yeah.
Animal science, horticulture.
Bigger budget.
Yeah, they just had a whole cooler full of cow uteri.
Sometimes I like to take them home and cook them and tell the kids that it's fucking steak.
God damn. But
listen, steak's expensive now.
Beef's beef.
Beef's beef.
But so he actually asked the teacher if he could take it home.
When I found out that was a fact, and the teacher, again, going back to what I was saying earlier about rest of society kind of failing to see there was a little something off.
Well, that kind of goes into, like, we had talked about it before, like, when we talk about consequence that people didn't see coming. Like, we could say, yeah, that looks weird, but even for us, like, we do shit every day that we don't think is weird, or see someone do something weird, and then it's
like the guy who didn't shoot Hitler. It's like one of those things where it's like, I've shot so many other fucking people today, I don't think I can kill another person.
Yeah, it's like, how did this guy get caught? Stupidest fucking thing, you know.
He had a bad tag.
He had a bad tag, you know. He had a bad tag. His wife was being a cunt to the cop while he had a kilo under the driver's seat.
He kept telling her to shut the fuck up, and as he moved to hit her, which already was a crime in and of itself, there was a fucking Colt Magnum in his pocket.
Yeah.
Just in a side, like, fucking holster.
Yeah, like, you know, we see this as like, what a dumbass, but
At the time, in the heat of the moment,
it's just like, you're not Batman. You're not going to see this shit coming.
Way to go, Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah. And this is where we meet one of his first victims. I believe the very first victim. The hitchhiker who was on his way to see Pegasus, the band Pegasus.
And the bad thing is, I never heard of him.
Yeah, like, I don't even know who the fuck it is. His name was Stephen. He played Stephen Hicks. Was his first victim. Now this kind of goes on to kind of something we see all the time when we talk about serial killers and stuff. Consequence, like, why did you get in the car with this dude? Why did you think it was okay?
Even the insult he hurled at him too when he found out he was gay, he used a slur, and that finally made him snap.
Yeah, but I think it's not so much as a snap as it was, oh shit, I need to fix this before
it gets out.
Yeah, like almost a form of murder in the second degree, a reactionary murder.
Yeah.
As opposed
crime of passion.
So like, his plan is this, you know, maybe take some photos, not kill him, but now it's a reactionary murder, so it's murder in the second degree. Now the problem is, because he killed him and the way he killed him, you know, he beat him with a barbell.
Yeah.
Knocked him out and then put him under the house for a little while. That is wild, and this is all under the pretense because his mom is gone.
And he's the only one home.
Yeah.
And his father never came home for like 3 months for the entire period of time.
Yeah, well, he was at that time when Jeff is in high school and graduating, his dad had already remarried.
Yeah.
Remarried Molly Ringwald.
Went from Penelope Ann Miller to Molly Ringwald.
It's a hell of a pull.
That's good God, Richard. His dick game must be out of the fucking world, man. He must be just laying it into her.
I'm kind of curious. I didn't bother to look up their real photos, but I'm just kind of curious what Molly Ringwald, what she was actually supposed to be.
She looks just like the stepmother.
Yeah.
Like, I saw a picture of the stepmom, like one of their stills from the courtroom, and to a T almost looks exactly like her.
You ever listen to Susie Cotro at all?
Sounds very familiar.
She's like a punk rock.
Yes. Susie Q.
Yeah, Susie Q. They play one of her songs in this. That's what caught my you're
No shit.
stumbling in. And
Oh shit, that's right. I knew that sounded familiar. I haven't listened to Suzy Q in God knows how long.
I've been going
dude.
back a deep dive into punk again, and me and Alex had talked about the Spotify playlist you get.
Yeah.
How they autofill. Like, hey, this is glam. And I'm just like, okay, Susie Quattro's on here, David Bowie. And I'm just like, why the fuck is this on here? And it's like Limp Bizkit.
I remember hearing Lemmy from Motorhead in one of his interviews talking about her. That's how I actually found out about her.
Yeah. She was very popular around this time, and it kind of sets the stage. Now, after he kills him, this is when the dad shows up later on.
Yeah. Sees him drinking.
Yeah.
And has finds out he's been in the fucking house for 3 months by himself with barely anything to eat.
Yeah. And I do like the stepmom.
Me too.
She's very like, well, Jeff. And he snaps at her. He's like, well, you're not my fucking mom. And she's like, well, I'll tell you what. I love your father. Well, I love you. So let me tell you how it is conditional, basically.
And tells him straight up, like, you're right, I'm not your mom.
And
like,
you need to get your shit together.
But, like, that's, I think, why Dahmer liked her so much, was because she was just straight the fuck forward. She didn't pull any punches. She just, this is how it is. This is how it's going to be. If you don't like it, then get the fuck out. But she didn't show any aggression with it. She just made it a very clear and concise statement, which is probably why he was like, all right, fuck, you got a point.
Well, it's that stability he didn't have.
Yeah.
Or the authoritative parent.
Stable-minded matriarchal figure, too.
And I did get, like, the dad, Jenkins, was just, like, played by Richard Jenkins. I did feel like he was playing that chaotic dad again from Step Brothers. And he's like, God damn it. Like, every time Dahmer fucked up, his dad's like, motherfucker. Like, especially, so going into this... Dahmer had talked to one of his guidance counselors. Out of all the things that were happening in high school, one of them was playing a prank where he enters himself into the honor roll class photo. Yep. And they catch it, and they end up blacking his face out, which he takes offense to. And that's when his dad rolls up while he's fucking like scratching fucking faces off in a yearbook. But they go to that diner. And he's sitting there, and Mother Ringwald's like, "That's a lot of sugar, don't you know?"
Now, GF.
Now, GF. Fuck off, bitch. But
I'm gonna go listen to Trap.
So he kind of tells his dad, he's like, "I don't see myself going anywhere," and his dad kind of like talks it back a little bit. It's like, oh man, my son's about to say some really gay shit, so let me just get up and get the fuck out of here. And it kind of just shuts Dahmer down a little bit to where he's not able to say like, yeah, I killed a guy, because there's something wrong with my motherfucking brain, which I don't think he was actually allowed to say, or no one was actually hearing him say it.
Well, if you look at how Lionel acted, and I even seeing that in the show and also reading a little bit about Jeffrey Dahmer, he said his father wasn't exactly a bad person. He never said his father was a bad guy or a bad dad. I think part of that was also because he felt bad to see his dad suffer through all this. Yeah. Him going to prison. He didn't care about what happened to him or what happened to the victims. It was just, he was upset seeing his father hurt by all of it. Yeah. And his dad was a very emotionally absent parent. Like, even they show scenes of him starting to get ready to cry, but then he pushes it down, which is probably what Jeff caught on to and what he probably taught Jeff. Yeah. Because they had the showing of emotions in his fucking batshit crazy mother, but, like, she's got extreme emotional imbalance.
Well, the only time we see actually Lionel show emotion is when he picks up his son after he out of jail. Yeah. The first time he goes to jail, and he just breaks down. He tells you, hey, go wait in the car, I'll be there in a second.
Yeah, I gotta go to the bathroom. And then he breaks down in the hallway.
Yeah, and that's the only time, being secluded and, by himself, which is kind of a very native thing to do, especially for his son's sake. And going into the next one, Dahmer, he tells his dad, he's like, so in this episode, we also find out that he basically sent him to I forget what college it was, He had sent him to college, and Dahmer was having a real tough time in college.
That was down in Miami, right?
No, this is before. University of Wisconsin, I think.
Oh, okay, yes.
But he had sent he paid for his son to go to college, and he ended up flunking out. And his dad just snapping. He'd been like, "You're going to the fucking army."
Just no fucking choice, because back then, what is that? That's 70s at this point. 70s, early 80s?
It was late 70s.
Yeah, so they still got that mindset of, if you're not going to fucking college, you're joining the military.
It reminds me of that Eric Foreman
yes.
mentality. He's like, I could fucking send you to the military. And this kitty, no, not my baby.
What's a 4-letter word for disappointment? Eric. Like, fucking A, Red. That motherfucker pulled no punches. Just so mad, Kurtwood Smith. He was always just so mad.
He worked for Dick Jones.
He owns the cops. OCP owns the cops. You're a cop.
You're a cop. Bitches leave. And Eric is just sitting there. He's like, I said bitches leave. Oh, Red Foreman doing drugs? Those were always the funny scenes.
I loved him when he was stoned and he was just sitting there laughing.
Putting fucking whipped cream on his head.
Just sitting there, just smiling at first, and then it gets...
can you imagine Kurtwood Smith playing the dad?
I would... you know what's funny? Lionel Dahmer. Him and Kurtwood Smith are uncanny. I feel like Kurtwood Smith would play a better Lionel Dahmer. I could actually see that. Wholeheartedly.
Kurtwood Smith plays a really good bad guy, too.
He does. Good guy and bad guy. And I loved him in Dead Poets Society also.
I liked him as the Klansman in A Time to Kill.
Holy shit, I forgot about that role.
Yeah. I watched that in Civics.
I could see it. I could see why.
It was a bad idea. Probably shouldn't have done that.
I could see why, though.
Because I cracked a joke that about should have got me expelled. My joke was the wrong two people. I feel like, hey, what do you feel about this movie? I was like, it's a damn shame those two boys got killed. And my teacher looked at me, and this girl I was hanging out with a lot, she's like, you piece of shit.
You're a fucking asshole.
It didn't help that she was black, too. It's just
you're right. I shouldn't have said that. I'm fucked. All right.
I'm like, but it was one of those things like, well, you laughed, didn't you?
You laughed. You can't take that away.
Yeah. Yeah, and going into this, he goes from high school to the Army, and Jeff struggles to find stability, in the Army. Then he gets honorably discharged. And this is where he kind of gets shipped off, because Lionel does do the stepbrothers scene. Get the fuck out the car! Like,
yeah, that same kind of scream when Dale was talking about like Nancy fucking him, and he just is doing dishes and goes, "Shut the fuck up!" Just stares at him.
I'm sorry, Mr. Doback.
Mom, Doback.
I'll tell you what, if he gets in my face, I'm gonna fuck him up.
I'm gonna drop that motherfucker. Jesus, Brennan.
I'm just like Dahmer saying that about Molly Ringwald. I'll tell you what, if she gets in my fucking face, I'm gonna drop that motherfucker.
You're not dropping anybody, Jeff.
Yeah, Jeff, shut the fuck up. You know what you're dropping? My fucking approval of you.
You know what you're dropping? My fucking credit score for me bailing you out fucking constantly.
Yeah. So he goes to his grandma's house, which was kind of a weird type situation.
It was really strange seeing that whole interaction with him and his grandmother, because his grandmother picked up on the shit like almost instantaneously that there was something completely wrong with him.
Well, in this episode, he's in a department store.
Yeah.
Now keep in mind, he's already murdered one person, and he tells the cops during the interview, he's like, "Oh yeah, I didn't kill for a very long time after that first murder," and it's truthful, He had branched out in like
period.
in society. He branched out, went to college, went to the Army. Granted, he's failed at both, but now when he's living with his grandmother, he works for the butcher. He's got a kind of a steady job. He goes to buy a new shirt, and that's where he sees the mannequin. Now this was kind of an elaborate kind of thing. I thought was the amount of forethought and the amount of what the fuck are you doing? How did you do this?
Without being seen.
Yeah, it was he waited in a changing area.
Yep.
And I'm just like, no one checked the changing area. There's literally a cop with you. Like,
it's the 70s.
Yeah, it's the 70s. That's the excuse for a lot of crime. It was the 1860s. It was okay. No,
listen, it happens.
What the fuck?
Listen, the Wild West, that's why there's a lot of unsolved murders. But it wasn't really unsolved by the bystanders. They all saw who did it. Who the fuck's going to report it? The fuck's the point? Sheriff's going to be like, nah, dude, I got better shit to worry about.
It's Boston in 1974. It's a kid and a preacher. What are you going to say? He took him to Dunkin' and got the fuck out of there.
He took him to Dunkin', did the thing, got out of there.
And then bought donuts.
For the whole precinct. Why are we going to be mad at him?
Yeah, what are you going to be? He grows up, he becomes a fucking successful cop who may or may not have killed people.
Looking at you, Golden State Killer.
Golden State, yeah. Poor Patton Oswalt's wife.
Oh, fucking Christ.
And some of the stuff in here, I was looking at the kind of the goofs in there. When Dahmer comes, is like a goof that was left in. When Dahmer comes home from the army, he's wearing a National Defense Medal. Medal is only awarded during times of conflict. Dahmer wasn't in the military during the time of conflict. But he does successfully steal the mannequin. And this becomes that, Mom, stay out of my room type situation.
But like way over the fucking top with that rage.
All he had to do was like, hey, honey, I'm going to, change your bed. He's like, hey, you know what? Let me do that for you. That's all he had to say. One thing. And he's basically, no, I'll change my own goddamn bed.
Yeah, it's not, there's no civil way to go about things. It's either one way or the other, which just shows the balance of both of his parents.
And during this time, he starts, killing again. His grandma had stopped him from drinking, or at least slowed it down.
Yeah.
And he had that little altar to Satan in his grandma's house.
Yep.
And she was like obviously turned off by that shit, but the mannequin really threw her the fuck off. Because she throws it away and he fucking loses it.
Like snaps.
Yeah, and he snaps at her. And she's kind of like shell shock a little bit from that. And we start getting these flashbacks of one by ones of these guys just being at her house. And he started killing people in her house.
That's what fucking hit me, was that he was killing people in her house while he was staying there. Then she was none the wise to it. She didn't want to know, because this time also he's kind of showing that he is gay. And to her, being religious, and especially this time too, with a lot of LGBTQ people of the LGBTQ community, were shunned fucking constantly. This is pre-Stonewall riots.
Yeah.
This is still, very hush-hush. The bathhouses thing is a great example of that, where it's, in private. The clubs are blacked out. It's very much a guise because of her over-religious kind of mindset. She just looked over all of it. Yeah. She just figured she was fucking these guys and leaving.
And around this time was, especially the late 70s, was the discovery of AIDS.
Yeah.
Which doesn't show up more prevalent until about 82, 83.
And that's actually shown in the show in the later episodes as well, when Tracy became a counselor, didn't he?
Yeah, so his mom was a counselor / worked at a doctor's office.
Right.
Basically, where she kind of drops her guard a little bit when she tells the guy he does have AIDS.
That was like Penelope Ann Miller's character.
Yeah.
Dahmer's mom was working at another clinic and doing the same thing. They mentioned one of the patients having his HIV test coming up negative.
Yeah. And that was much later on after they called him.
Yeah.
But going on to the other one, Blood on Their Hands, episode 5, Jeff's list of victims goes longer without full police investigation, and encounters with a teen lands him in jail. This is Super Newsom's older brother.
Yep.
Where he drugs him with Halcyon. It doesn't quite work. He doesn't give him enough. And he actually takes a misdose of his own drink.
Yep.
And this is where he has to serve some form of time. And this is where we get the crying scene from Lionel, where he picks him up in jail. And he has to move away. Like, he has to. And we get some more flashbacks later episodes of some filler of why he's not at the grandma's house anymore because of all this crazy shit he's doing. But with blood on their hands, this episode was really neat because it kind of facilitates his spree now in a more private setting. They basically rolled out a red carpet for him to be like, no, go live by yourself now. Where now someone you live with could have just, ratted you out. Like your grandma could have been like, hey, I saw some of these guys who were missing in my house the night before they went missing.
Now he's got his own little private murder dungeon.
And they accidentally kind of facilitate that, which, if you think about it in hindsight, where we treat, sex offenders, is they can only live so far from other places. They can't be within so much of a school or a daycare or something. So you're kind of pinpointing them in the middle of these little spots, these little gray areas, but you're also facilitating a new area to do their crimes. Yeah, especially the more hardcore ones.
Of course.
But in this one, I really liked because it's a giant setup, but it also hits up with the Super Newsom Phone family. And the dad, I really felt bad for. Worst of all, because his son didn't get no justice, and then his second son is murdered and didn't see justice.
And his indifference to all of the money that he's been given and all this, he just doesn't fucking care, because in his mind, which I think any parent in that situation would feel, it's not going to bring my son back. It doesn't matter, you guys already fucked me over when it came to my son.
And we actually see Cognac in the audience of the court.
Yep.
And we've already seen him, get killed, pretty much, or get hunted, or pulled down. And this is what I liked about Niecy Nash's character. She really, you feel for her character a lot because she's trying to help this guy out. Because some of the goofs in this one is. It wasn't really his neighbor that found Cognac. It was two women on the street.
Yeah.
And they're trying to help him out, but Jeffrey Dahmer happened to be it's kind of weird, actually. He had got away. Jeffrey Dahmer was kind of clueless about this because he had left. And when he came back, he sees the guy he was going to kill in the fucking street. And he's able to con that guy back into the house, back into the apartment.
And this is also where those two Milwaukee police officers come into the whole fold.
Yes. They stayed to the police force. They recently retired not long ago.
Yeah, with tenure and pensions, because they got kicked off in 93 and they got reinstated in 95 because of a judge basically a ruling in their favor.
Yeah.
Finding a legality loophole.
Yeah. But you know what they say about Milwaukee police? They just feed people to other people. Bobcat Goldthwait had a great fucking joke about those two cops. Bobcat Goldthwait, the guy that was, I'd only seen him stand up one time, and he had a great Jeffrey Dahmer joke. I can't think of it right now, but damn, that was a solid fucking joke. And I was just like, dude, this guy really was a great stand-up.
I just remember a friend of mine telling me a story about he was in Milwaukee for a concert. It was a whole, I can't remember if it was a festival or a tour, and he was living around the Midwest at that time, and Milwaukee was the one city he was going to around his area, so he went up there. His car ended up getting stolen, so he reports to the MPD. And when he's talking to the woman at the front desk and they keep telling him, yeah, we have no idea what happened to it. And he's like, oh, so let me get this straight. You guys can use your resources to bring a 14-year-old kid back to a serial murderer's house, but you can't find my fucking Toyota. And the whole fucking room, everybody behind the counter turned and was just glaring at him. And pretty much, without saying it, telling him, you need to get the fuck out of here. There's one thing the Milwaukee Police Department does not like being brought up. It's those two cops.
Yeah. Well, fuck Milwaukee. Let's just go.
To be honest with you, it was a powder keg in terms of the police. It wasn't just them; it was the entire fucking police department. It was just not caring about the cases, especially when it came from a lower income neighborhood where Jeff was living.
And we do get kind of a little bit more interaction with Jeff and his neighbor.
Yeah,
which I liked. The Smale, she issues the complaint against him. And the landlord. I feel for this motherfucking landlord, man. He had no idea what was going on.
He was so nice and just so scared.
He was nice to all the tenants. You know, he fought for them a little bit, you know, because
quite a lot.
At one point, they were all sleeping in the lobby. And he's just like, that's cool. And then the owners are like, you can't let him do that. And he's like, I don't want to tell him that shit.
Like, come on, man. Just let him stay.
The Milwaukee Madman lived here.
He ate people. These people kind of need a little break or something.
Yeah, man. You know what they say, can't beat them, eat them. That's always a favorite of mine. I love that one. And bakery fresh Skin-O-Men rolls.
Oh my God.
And the next episode, this is actually my favorite episode, episode 6, Silenced, which is the story of Tony, who lived in Madison, Wisconsin. He was born deaf. He wasn't really born deaf. He was deaf because of an antibiotic he had took that caused deafness. Which is actually, I believe, the same antibiotic that was invented around the time that Ray Charles caused his blindness.
I think so as well. I think it was the same thing.
Yeah, so this is an antibiotic that was used a very long time ago before people realized, this affects people in an adverse way. But we get from the time he is born, the time he's diagnosed with deafness, and we see him grow up into
and doing
a young
well
man.
for himself.
And he's struggling. He is struggling. I had met a few people growing up right out of college because of my roommate at the time. He knew some deaf people, and he was taking sign language at the time. And I was fortunate to know these people. I almost actually shot a deaf person because they didn't respond. I didn't recognize them at the door. It was pouring down rain. Same kind of situation here. Hurricane rolling through. Yeah. And it was like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. Someone was knocking at my apartment door. Power was out. Pitch black. No street lights, no nothing. Everything was black. And it was a dude in a poncho who was bald and had a long beard. It was our friend, Deaf Mike. And we didn't realize he had cut his hair. And so I had a gun at the door jamb with my foot at the door, and I was ready to pop that motherfucker open. And he carried 2 phones. Remember the Motorola Switch, which that it flips over? Yeah. He kept 2 phones, and he would just type out and just show you, kind of like the way Tony did in this episode,
where he would write on the little notepad.
Yeah. I was like, oh shit, it's Mike. Come on in, man. Fuck, it's fucking storming and shit. I'm just like, fuck, man. Oh boy ain't here, but man, you're ready to crash on the couch, man. Fucking get out of this weather. He's wearing a poncho, driving a moped, deaf as hell.
Jesus Christ. Unit.
But because of that, I actually got to learn sign language more and more, and I still use it today for some people. I did find out a lot of people in the dialysis, because I used to do dialysis a lot, are deaf. Which
really?
I don't know if there's a correlation between that. I never bothered to do the research on.
That's something you probably should do the research on, just in case.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to get deaf.
You say that now, and then all of a sudden you're signing.
What?
Chris, stop throwing up gang signs.
I hate when you stutter.
Sorry, it's the seizures.
Yeah. But this actually, hits a little differently because we know more about this victim than all the other. Now, the Laotian boy is the famous victim, but this one hits harder than all of them
because he was trying to be a model, a deaf model, also a gay deaf man too. Like,
he had formed a relationship with Dahmer.
Yeah,
because we see early on he's struggling to find a relationship in the gay bar scene, and his friends are trying to help him out, trying to build up his confidence a little bit. One guy's just like, just find you a guy, blah blah blah.
And what's fucked up is he got killed.
Yes, that man was killed in Madison. Now he decides to move from Madison to Wisconsin, to Milwaukee, because it's a better scene,
bigger city,
and more opportunities. I did hate it that he walked in that record store, and they basically turned him away,
like right from the start.
And that one guy kind of looks at his boss like, "What the fuck, you cunt."
It's just like it's a record store,
and it's just like, yeah, I get that.
Beethoven was fucking deaf.
Yeah. But he could, if you remember him in the scene of the bar, he's pounding his chest because he could feel the beat.
Exactly.
Yeah. Very, very kind of a surreal type episode. And like I said, it is fucking heart-wrenching to hear some of this, like see some of this stuff. And now This one has actually got the highest rating of all the other episodes.
Of course, because he was the character really stood out. His family was really accepting about him. It was like the polar opposite of Dahmer's family.
Yeah. His sister was supportive of him. His mom was supportive of him. Now, she did say, hey, you know, be safe, blah, blah, blah. You don't need to move. You're safe here. And you kind of see that as like a mom and son or mom and child kind of aspect of it. And you're just like, you know this is going to end bad.
And it's like the moment he's taken from her, she just sits there and stares at his empty seat. Yeah. And like, that's what fucking killed me. It was just seeing her just sit there and like relive all the memories she had with him.
Yeah. But yeah, that was silenced. And the woman that plays the mom is fantastic.
Yeah.
We see a lot more of her in the last 2 episodes. Going into episode 7, Cassandra, which is my sister's name. So this is after Dahmer has confessed. We've actually been seeing a lot of backdrop in every episode of him confessing. I didn't like the fact that one cop said he targeted black guys because he's a racist. He targeted black guys because it's convenient.
Well, it was also the neighborhood he was in, too.
Yeah.
It was predominantly...
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what caused it. Was convenience. Yeah, if he was in a white neighborhood, he would have done it to whites.
Yeah, there was no difference to him. I mean, the first victim he had was a white guy.
Yeah. In this episode, Jesse Jackson comes to Milwaukee, civil rights leader. He had just lost a presidential campaign around this time for making a odd saying. This is basically cancel culture in the beginning when he called New York Hammy-town. Yes.
Yikes.
He said he lost because of Hammy-town.
That's a little...
Yeah.
That'll do it.
Yeah. But Jesse Jackson does show up, and he does it. And I will say, I understand. A lot of people get Jesse Jackson gets a lot of hate, and because he's a piece of shit sometimes.
He can be, yeah.
But for this, I kind of understand what he was doing, because he gets questioned by one of his parishioners. Basically, why are we coming out here? You know, Rodney King just got beat. You know, down over here. He's like, well, this is important too, because it was police negligence, societal, blindness.
And I think at that time, too, there was enough people in L.A. doing their part as civil rights leaders. And he was kind of like, well, this is every part of the country needs to be found. Like even in his limo where he's talking about, well, what if we lose? Then we fight. Then we fight the next one, and the next one, and the next one.
I was trying to figure out who that guy was.
Me too.
I couldn't really figure that out. But he goes and sees Glenda's character.
Yep.
She is going through a terrible fucking time. She almost loses her job for just being in the building with Dahmer. And it kind of gives you that ripple effect of what that kind of thing can do to not only a neighborhood, but also the people living in that neighborhood. Because now it's like, oh no, I lived in the apartment building with Jeffrey Dahmer. I have to go through all these news people to just get to my house. I had to evacuate when they found everything.
Yeah,
all those people had to evacuate, and it's fucking wild because of all the crazy stuff he had in his apartment, which he was able to get away with
for an extensive period of time. I mean, he wasn't at the same level as like fucking Ed Gein, but Ed Gein also had a house to himself.
Yeah. And we see that with Lionel the lawyer.
Yeah,
he's trying to say, hey, there was a guy in Milwaukee, in Wisconsin who did the same thing, and they burned his house and made him crazy. It's just like,
in Plainfield.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I can see you trying to make that argument, but also shut the fuck up.
Yeah, like you're digging his grave at this point. Like,
but Dahmer, I will say, because it was a compulsion, he did not care and just told him the truth. He confessed everything. Like there was nothing. He at no point, and even like some people who examine the case say he wasn't proud of what he did, like some of the people are, like Gacy or Bundy or Charles Manson. These big names. Like
there's a pride to it.
Yeah, there's pride. No, he's like, no, look, I have a condition. I'm not crazy, but I did these things with forethought. Because that's the problem with insanity plea. Insanity implies that there was no malice or forethought between the acts.
He just did it.
Yeah. Unlike the man who kills Dahmer, who is schizophrenic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And his crime, I read into he shot a guy in the fucking head trying to rob him and got and then pulled the gun on the other guy who was the witness who testified against him, got to put him in prison, and asked him to write him a check. Dude wrote him a check for $3,000 and fucking ran.
Yeah. And in this one, we see that Glenda's like, the whole thing about her was she tried and she tried and she tried. And like you said, she kind of plays two different people in this series, where like people called and called.
Pamela Bess and Glenda, I forgot her last name, but that's who she was mostly playing as, is Glenda, who lived across the street in another building.
Yeah. And this one, they portray her as living next door on the apartment,
which was Pamela Bass.
Yeah.
That was his actual neighbor.
Yeah. And just her life being ruined. Even her daughter's like, don't go back there. And it's kind of fucked up because toward the end of the episode, she had talked and, you know, kind of let it all hang out. It's like, look, my life, you know, it's tough. She feels responsible for these deaths.
That's what killed me.
And it's like a version of survivor's guilt a little bit. But we get a scene where it's her and her daughters walking up back to the apartment, and these guys are taking fucking photos of the apartment or the building, and they find it distasteful. And the daughter breaks the camera, and 5 minutes later, the cops show up.
It's like your response time's fucking great when she breaks this asshole's camera.
Yeah, but when this dude's like eating motherfuckers, like having a buffet.
You tell me not to worry about it, even though I've called you 8 fucking times.
Yeah. And we actually gonna get a scene of her like crying on the phone to the cops. She's like, he's killing someone. I can't go over there. And the cops basically like,
do you see it?
Do you see it? Yeah. Like, and it's the malaise of it. Like, that just pisses me off.
Yeah, the nonchalant attitude, the indifference, the apathy that's expressed in his voice.
The guys that play those two cops do a great job of just being pieces of shit.
Yeah, well, that was the actual fucking cops.
Yeah. And this is probably my second favorite episode, just because it kind of delves into the other character a little bit. She becomes close, actually, to the father of Kamsak. And it kind of works itself out.
Because his other son, because like his other son gets married and they share whiskey at the wedding together.
Yeah, it's nice on that end. And,
I feel like a lot of people. I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. I was just gonna say I feel like a lot of people don't focus on that portion of the series. They focus on all the negative and horrifying aspects when there is some beauty that came out of it, because those survivors, in a way, really kind of came together to comfort one another. To show one another that it's like, hey, we know that they all fucked up, but I'm on your side, even though the rest of these people aren't. Talking about like the city of Milwaukee, the police department.
Yeah. In the next one, we get episode 8, Lionel, which this and the last 2 episodes kind of run all together to me, because I didn't.
There wasn't really a separation of them.
Yeah. And this is actually one of the shorter ones. This only came out at like 47 minutes, but it's basically about the dad. And what he saw and the weight of it. The only second part of this episode was the cops being relieved of duty, and then going after the mayor and the police chief at the time, because the cops say something almost threatening a little bit. He's like, "We'll be here longer than you will," and I'm just like,
that's your fucking boss.
I should beat the shit out of you.
Yeah.
If he was an actual cop, like if the chief was an actual cop, I would have took one behind the fucking building and beat him with a hose. Like, I'm sorry. Like there's some things in this world that don't change.
No.
And talking down to your fucking superior.
That shouldn't change anyway, especially with the police union sort of bullshit they were trying to pull.
And like, I would make him suck the gun like a dick. Like, be like a real fag. Huh?
Be like fucking Denzel Washington in Training Day.
Oh god.
You told me to suck. You said to suck my dick. Suck your dick. That's what you wanted, right? No.
And like, just to be quick on this one, we actually see just a lot of like some tie-ins from Jeff growing up, like the taxidermy thing. This is where Jeff had that box. Yeah, the special little box that his grandma gave him, and
with the fucking human head.
Yeah, and it kind of plays off as it seems like they try to play off in this episode that Lionel's more responsible than anybody for the way Dahmer is.
In a way, yes.
And I just see it as more of he gave him facilitated the tools,
but he didn't realize the methods or the madness that would come with it.
Now, do you think that was just like willful ignorance, or he just didn't know?
I feel like it wasn't a form of it was a form of willful ignorance in the sense of emotional suicide. And by that, I mean, I feel like he would have had a mental breakdown confronting it directly, that it had to happen for him to finally be like, this is what my son became.
Yeah.
Because he realized, I feel like that comes to fruition when he's sitting in that interrogation room and the 2 police detectives are telling him exactly what happened.
Yeah.
And, you know, whenever you're ready to talk, we'll be in the next room.
Yeah.
Leaving him to his thoughts, because that's when he needed the clarification and the closure, in a way, of what his son did.
Yeah. And we get it. I can't say if this is true or not, but the father of the Laotian boy was getting hate calls.
From the fucking cops.
From the cops. And they portrayed it as the 2 cops that got his son killed. And I can't say if that's true or not. That may be, you know, taking liberties.
But I feel like when you think about law enforcement and police unions, they have enough sway that they could probably get some fucking on-duty or off-duty guys to do some shit like that. To do
but the way they portrayed it in this, it was the 2 cops.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I could see.
Especially if you work in the same unit, the same precinct as those guys, you know. Like when they got reinstated, they had a whole big-ass party. And the only person that was off to the side from that, just standing in disappointment, was the chief.
Yeah. And we kind of get the whole Jesse Jackson working with the mayor to try to save face with the city a little bit.
Police chief also awarding Glenda with the Citizen of the Year award.
And that was going on concurrently
with the police union awards.
And that was just...
You're like, you motherfuckers, what the fuck do they deserve an award for?
Going into the second to last episode, the Boogeyman, this was this kind of... it seemed like exposition with the characters, kind of like closing point.
Yeah.
Was we get more of the victim families.
A lot more.
Yeah. And...
Penelope Ann Miller knocking on the door of one of the people to ask to write something for Jeff so he could go to a fucking mental hospital instead of prison.
Yeah. What a pull, bitch.
Good try. You fucking failed.
Yeah, and it kind of gives that, you know, the Boogeyman is a pretty good way of doing this because, yeah, like he was able to kind of create this mythos about himself. And this is where we get a lot of lies about Jeffrey Dahmer, about what some of the stuff he did.
Yeah, his family life too.
Yeah, he was beat, he was molested. It's like no. No, he was just a strong dude who fucking wanted to kill people, who had a compulsion.
I think in like America, especially at that time, sensationalism was really what was in terms of journalism and talk shows. So you needed some kind of reasonable understanding as to why this person did these things.
Yeah.
And the only thing that I feel like most pop culture can cling on to is incidents of insanity or monstrous behavior, even though this is another fucking human being that killed and ate people.
And with this one, you know, he's in jail at this, you know, he's in solitary confinement almost. Yep. But he's getting the fan mail from these men, mainly women.
Just strange to me.
Asking for like signatures and stuff, which I see that a lot.
Yeah.
Especially with like people like John Wayne Gacy.
Constantly.
Who did the art.
He used to have pen pals too.
Yeah. But on the other end of this, his dad decides to write a book, which doesn't go well. So around this time, what's big is the Son of Sam laws. Now keep in mind, Ted Bundy had already been executed in 1989.
Yeah.
The Son of Sam,
David Berkowitz, what he did while he was in jail was make money by selling his story, stuff like that. Now, it wasn't until later on that they wrote laws in the books where serial killers or criminals can't make profit off their crimes. And we get the Son of Sam laws. John Wayne Gacy was able to kind of surpass this a little bit because he sold paintings and stuff like that. He commissioned, Yeah,
commissioned painting. But what Jeffrey Dahmer was doing was almost the same thing. He was doing signatures. He was selling them on poker cards and stuff like that to inmates, you know, just to have more money in the canteen, basically, just to live a life a little bit better.
People sending to put money on his books.
Yeah. people sending like pornographic photographs and stuff like that.
I mean, and he was also on top of this. He was taunting other prisoners.
Yes, and in all intensive purposes, Jeffrey Dahmer's kind of a dick.
Like a fucking, like he's treating it like it's high school.
Yeah.
And like Scarver, I think it was Christopher Scarver was his name, the guy who killed him, is basically tells him, I don't like that shit.
Yeah,
and then warns him numerous times.
Yeah, and it's kind of crazy how much they let him go on. Ronald Flowers, I think is the man who killed him. Wasn't it Ronald Flowers?
Ronald Flowers? Hold on. You're probably right. No, Christopher Scarver.
Yeah.
Christopher J. Scarver.
Yeah, I think Ronald Flowers is one of his victims. Anyway, sorry, going back to it. Yeah, you're right. Scarver's did, approach him. And this is where we get later on, I think, the real truth of the matter of how Jeffrey Dahmer died was because Scarver just saw him as someone that was truly evil.
Yeah.
Because at that time, Scarver's is diagnosed with schizophrenia. He believes he's doing the Lord's work.
Yep.
Which, with schizophrenia, yeah, I could totally believe that.
Yeah. with the schizo bias, yeah.
Yeah. But I will say, he did the world a favor.
He did.
As I'm actually quite anti-death penalty.
Really?
Because I need beyond a reasonable doubt. Jeffrey Dahmer, totally up for it.
Gacy,
he confessed.
yeah.
Gacy, Dahmer, Bundy. Yeah, they deserved every fucking volt of electricity, poison in their vein. In my opinion,
Fully
but we got
agree.
people who get killed all the time who never did anything.
Yeah.
And get fucked over.
Yeah.
West Memphis 3 almost got executed.
And they were on death row for a while.
The Mantiot crew, same thing. And that's why I don't believe in it. But for these guys, yes, straight to hell, bury them deep.
If there's a possible way for them to suffer longer, like let's not use an anesthetic. Let's do the Percy Whitmore thing where we don't wet the sponge.
Yeah. Does he have brothers? Does he have kids? Yeah, let's kill them too, just to be sure.
We got to make sure to weed them out.
Let's go the North Korea route. And just like that generational imprisonment.
Extermination. Mass grave.
Mass grave.
Hey, we were kind enough to put a little dirt on you.
What is a mass grave but a crop of renewal?
We will grow corn from the corpses of the ones who have wronged us.
There was a movie I used to watch. It used to be on TV all the time. It was about these very liberal people who were killing criminals and burying them in the backyard growing tomatoes. I can't remember what it's called. It's fucking fantastic.
Oh my god.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I do.
Because they come across a dude who's very fucking badass, and it's just like it was hard for them to kill him.
Yeah.
He was like a serial killer.
Yeah.
But they bury him in the backyard and grow tomatoes and eat the sauce.
I can't even remember what it was.
It was a fun movie.
I remember seeing the sauce in a scene, like they do a close-up of it too to make you sick.
Yeah, it was like a vigilante justice kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's like, no, but they're very like liberal, like doctors and psychiatrists and stuff. And
It was kind of like Dirty Harry, but like if the whole fucking city was actually against him.
I think like The Jury or something like that.
I think so.
Yeah, it was a fucking weird movie. Anyway, that's what that kind of reminds me of. It was just that's how we should do it. Just bury in the backyard and grow a crop on top of them. And so going into the last episode, we've already set the stages of old boy wanting to kill Dahmer. Lionel's actually come, the families, his family have kind of come to terms with what's going to happen. But this episode, the last episode, opens up in 1977 with John Wayne Gacy.
Which terrified me.
Really?
Honestly, the actor they got to get to play Gacy for that brief moment of time was probably some of the best method acting I think I've ever seen. That guy reminded me of Gacy, talked like Gacy, had the Chicago accent.
Yeah. Did you ever watch The Good Place?
Yes.
He's in that.
No shit.
He's one of the gay guys in the gay couple.
Oh my god, you're right, yeah.
Oh my god, there's shrimp.
I didn't even realize that.
Yeah.
I think what got me though in that scene with Gacy was just the fucking when he was dressed up as a clown, drowning the guy, and he just said, "Oh God, please stop!" And he said, "God's not here. Look at me. I'm God."
Yeah, yeah. So we get a little bit more into Mr. Scarver too in this, and you had mentioned it earlier. At one point, there is John Wayne Gacy being executed, Jeffrey Dahmer being baptized, and an eclipse.
And Scarver fucking screaming to try to get the permission to kill him.
Yeah. And before all this, he's watching an interview with John Wayne Gacy, and he's telling him how he was saved, basically, again. And he's repentant. Yeah.
Yeah, he's one of his fucking asshole.
Yeah, it's one of the... I grew up hearing this a lot. My dad, he's like, what the fuck is that? Like how do you go to forgive somebody to do all that bullshit? What is
Listen, I'm a god of forgiveness, but there's a fucking limit, bro.
Yeah. This is where you go back to when God, before he had the kid.
the smiting everything, the blood of the lamb, millions of dead motherfuckers, drown the world.
Yeah, like you remember that time he told him, he was like, I'm gonna have your kids eaten by bears because they're blasphemous.
You know what, Satan? I put a bet on you, and I'm gonna see if you can live through all this shit. So what he's gonna do is he's gonna kill your crops. I'm gonna kill your whole fucking family.
Yeah.
And
it sounds like an elaborate extortion.
Yeah, and we're gonna see how who goes crying to who. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's very fucked.
It's very fucked. But hey, I got money riding on this, so you better not let me down.
I got 12 ponies on this. But the episode is actually titled very well. The God of Forgiveness and the God of Vengeance.
I love the title for it.
Now we get this. The preacher he approaches out the gate. What a fucking approach. And the priest's been like, yeah, Dahmer, sit down. Let's have a chat. And it's just like, really?
Father, you gotta understand.
You gotta understand, this dude ate motherfuckers, not spiritually like in the body of Christ.
Like even
he ate the body of people.
Even Scarver says that before he kills him too. It's like it's one thing to kill somebody, but you desecrated the corpses. You ate them.
Yeah.
Like that's the fucked up part. It's like it would be one thing if you were just being like the Son of Sam. You run up, shoot somebody, and you run away.
Yeah.
This was no. You were taking your time.
Yeah. And so he goes down the path of Christendom. And this is something that actually legitimately makes his dad kind of proud again. And I'm just like, this is just another thing.
It's just another ploy.
Yeah, and it's just another sense of trying to be normal again. And I thought it was funny that one line of dialogue was someone had sewn and made the baptism gown and sent it to him.
Some lady in Oklahoma made this for me, or Oklahoma City, and I'm like, oh no!
This is why you guys get bombed.
This is why. This is why a building blew up.
Yeah, this shit like this.
Oklahoma, check your people.
Timothy McVeigh saw this. He was just looking for that person.
Let me guess. Does she live in that little panhandle, that little sliver of Oklahoma?
You know that panhandle exists?
Why?
Fun fact: Texas couldn't have that sliver because anything above that parallel was anti-slavery.
Oh,
so they gave it to Oklahoma,
which in turn was the place for whenever they did the Great Displacement.
Yes,
the Trail of Tears. That's where everybody ended up.
Yeah, that's also where Oklahoma is such a weird why they're called the Sooners. It's a funny story. It's about plots of. I know we're going off a tangent for just a second, but just fun facts about history. They're called the Sooners because a bunch of women camped out in the middle of the fucking night, and when the land rush contest started, they had like a 4-mile advance run, so they came sooner than later.
Oh my god!
So they took up more land before all the other prospectors came and plotted land.
Jesus!
Because they slept out in the middle of the fucking night in the desert.
There's a lot you can learn from Oklahoma.
Tulsa, a large black-only community, was burned out.
Yeah, Tulsa race riots.
I learned that in school, and some people in my high school went on Facebook and were like, "Oh, we never heard about this." I'm like, "You didn't pay attention then, because I fucking heard about it."
I actually don't remember learning about that in history class. I remember hearing about the New York and Chicago race riots, where New York was because of drafting.
Yeah, nah, this wasn't a race riot. This was straight up murder.
Yeah, no, this was raising the town to the ground because they're making more money than us.
But yeah, shout out to Mr. Jordan of West Idaho High School to talk about that shit. That motherfucker was cool about his job. He had like Civil War clothes and shit. Like he was real big into that trench art, all kinds of shit.
I love that.
Had a real rib from Jeffrey Dahmer.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
God damn.
Yeah.
He had the same copy, The Exorcist 3, that Jeffrey Dahmer used.
Yeah, the rib of the man. But so he's. Do you believe that he was actually repentant about it, or it was just another ploy?
I feel like it was another ploy. It was kind of like him joining the army. It was him getting a job at the candy factory, getting a job doing blood work with people. It was just another thing to make him.
I forgot about the candy factory. I forgot that's where they arrested him. Because I worked at a candy factory.
He was just up there stirring chocolate.
I worked at a candy factory. It's a fucking weird job.
I can't imagine working with the guys that stirred chocolate because they looked miserable. Did you notice that everybody in there? It wasn't even just him. All the people.
Well, if
in
you
the
look
background.
at the lighting is like a dull yellow, like a sepia kind of.
Part of me wanted to see like a gag of like a dude falling asleep and falling into the fucking chocolate,
like a dark Willy Wonka.
And somebody else goes in and takes over his shift.
Yeah.
Oh fuck, Jenkins fell in. Go ahead, Richards.
Oh, it's dark chocolate. Okay.
Oh god. Push him down if he tries to come out. He tried to fucking.
This Augustus Gloop motherfucker.
Fuck you, Augustus Gloop. You're not getting disability.
Yeah. Oh my god, the Gene Wilder fucking Willy Wonka with Dahmer.
No. Don't let him come up for air. I'm not getting another fucking lawsuit, okay? I can't lose this factory again.
What do you think of the one you call God? Maybe he's forgotten you. It's just Joffrey Dahmer singing along with the fucking workers who
until an Oompa Loompa just beats him to death. Yeah. With the fucking ore from the gondola.
God, oh me, is working through me. It's just a midget with a fucking stick.
I think what's fucking funny though is that there used to just be a theory of Dahmer how he got killed in that weight room is that it was supposedly by the guards, but the Netflix series just made it clear no, the guards let that happen.
Well, remember that was another like rumor going around that someone stuck a mop stick up his ass. That was the big one for a very long time, and that wasn't true at all.
No,
and I think that just because for the fact that he was gay, and that happens to we see that a lot in movies and cinema.
Yeah,
of that being like done. For example, Vito.
Yeah, they shoved a pool cue up his ass. Yes,
which is just another part of that story. Like it's played up like. Oh, he's such a degenerate, so we did something degenerative to him.
Yeah, it was like the jokes that Fat Dom in that episode, in the later episode, was telling to Silvio and Carlo, where they both finally fucking snapped and killed him.
Yeah, and that was one of the false stories was that he had a broomstick sewed up his ass. No, he just got beat to death with a barbell,
and didn't fight back.
And that's what I think is kind of fascinating. I think he accepted his fate.
Because even, I know it was probably dramatized, but, like, when he was getting arrested and he went, for what I've done, I should be dead.
Yes.
But he was even pushing for the death penalty.
Well, he yells that at Scarver in the cafeteria. He's like, I asked to die, right? I told you. Like, he tells multiple people that shit. And I just can't think of, in the back of my mind, what if he had fought back? Because Jeffrey Dahmer wasn't a weak man.
I feel like it would have been bloodied. Both of them.
I think it would have been knocked down, drag out.
Yeah, like fighting to the last breath type of thing.
And the way they shoot this is like every time he takes a strike, they're showing him striking one of his victims, and all the terrible shit he's doing after every hit. And then it goes into Lionel being called. Now we get to like the epilogue of the Jeffrey Dahmer story.
Closing the book finally.
Close the book finally. The only last standing event is the cremation of the body. They had wanted to dissect his brain,
and his mother and his father kept going back and forth in court over that, which is why it took him so long to finally get cremated.
Yeah, I do love the acting here with the dad and the mom. One last fight. Just because it's just like one last fuck you. She's like, we can finally find out why he did it. And Lionel gives the perfect line. I think me and you both have different ideas on why he fucking did this, and they're probably both true. I mean, it's just like,
he was just so vicious to her.
He hated that fucking woman. I'm just like, how did you like her long enough to fuck her at least twice?
How many fucking pills were... I just love when he walks out of that fucking one courtroom scene and Molly Ringwald's trying to rein him in. Yeah. And he's just going, how many fucking pills have you taken today? What, 100? 1,000?
Yeah.
Lionel. No, she needs to hear this.
Fuck you, bitch. It just reminds me of like Henry and his wife.
Yeah.
Henry Hill.
Just loud, obnoxious, fucking waking the neighbors. Yeah. Neighbors are coming out of their house to look.
Yeah. Do you know your wife's your whore?
Hello, yes, Mr. Landlord. Do you know that the woman in 3C, Janice Rossi, is a whore?
And the kids are fucking crying. It's just that everything comes back to these gangster flicks because we've just been on a binge on these.
Yeah, honestly, it does. There's so many reminiscent scenes.
Yeah. And we do get one kind of scene with Glenda where she's been... so we kind of glossed over it. The apartment building was demolished, and the city of Milwaukee was going to put in a park. So during this time, a park was put in, and she had requested, along with some others, a memorial be placed for the victims who were killed in the apartment. And at the very end, before the credits roll, it said, to this day, Milwaukee has not put in a...
Nope, it's vacant. It's vacant fucking lot.
Yeah, no monument, no nothing.
That was like Pazuzu's house from down here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where was he? Was he...
when you were Winston-Salem.
That's what I thought. I couldn't remember if it was Greensboro or Winston-Salem, but he they left his house there. I found that out because I looked up the address, and I was like, there's just an empty fucking lot. And sure enough, I look up at the TV, and it's like, yeah, they demolished his house, and there was nothing there anymore. They didn't build anything else.
Yeah, that whole Vice special, we talked about it on the podcast. So.
I watched that, and I also looked into some other, like, YouTubers doing their stories on him, and I was just in total fucking awe.
Yeah. Well, even if it was still around, it'd probably be like, because of where it's at, people would just be hanging around there all the time trying to fucking take photos and shit.
It's the same thing with the building that Dahmer had, or Gacy's house.
Yeah. Or Ed Gein's property and stuff like that. I think there's a highway going through that right now.
Yeah.
It's the same with there's a bunch of dead... I forget. I'm trying to remember what happened with... I was reading a story about they had burnt down something and a bunch of victims. Now there's just a road there.
Are you talking about that orphanage?
I think so.
In Ohio, where it was like the husband and wife that owned it?
Yeah.
Yeah, God, I cannot... The Gore House.
Yeah.
That's what it was, because it eventually burnt down because they had a lot of issues of vandalism. Yeah. But like...
It is also this... Fred and Mae West in Britain.
Yes.
They built a road on top of it.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, so they kind of... The city... the last two episodes are big fuck you, Milwaukee.
And fuck
episodes.
You to the Milwaukee PD.
And fuck you to the city of Milwaukee.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of curious if this is going to have any lasting effects on the city of Milwaukee, if they're actually ever going to do
I don't know memorial. What it is with like fucking Midwestern cities and just civil unrest constantly being in the theme, like Minneapolis, Milwaukee, fucking Chicago.
Great Lakes.
It's something about the Great Lakes. Well, Flint would tell you about that too.
Yeah. That actually gives me I actually postulated a theory about that with my dad was the amount of lead exposure through gasoline and pre-EPA regulations breeding these people serial killers, because they're all born in the early 60s, late 50s, and maybe their exposure to a chemical that does not only mind-altering substances, it prevents intelligence and prevents kind of aggravates.
Well, Richard Ramirez is a poster child for that too, and also having a cousin that served in the Vietnam War, being part of that generation, and him showing and photos of murders and talking about grisly war stories too has an effect, especially with somebody with a fragile mind like Richard's.
Yeah, but also like lead poisoning can't be reversed.
Yeah,
you can't undo it. Once it's done, it's done.
It's kind of like mercury poisoning too. It's like you can survive it, but you're going to eventually develop dementia.
Well, that's the same with like the lighthouse.
Yeah,
that's why they all went nuts, is because they're exposed to fucking mercury.
It's like those 3 lighthouse keepers in Scotland that went missing.
There's a movie about that. It's very good.
Get out of here.
Yeah, I'll show it to you after this. It's a very good movie. It explains what happens in a kind of a more serious sense. But yeah, it's a wild fucking movie.
Jesus, I gotta.
But yeah, that's the story of Jeffrey D.
Jeffrey D
coming at you with the next
Coming
big
at
EP.
you. Just don't eat the meat.
Grandmaster Flesh.
Grandmaster Flesh. Oh my fucking god.
Oh my god, you know you listen to that shit. It'd be almost as good as Dee Dee Ramone's fucking rap album.
Why'd you have to remind me of that? It's almost
because Alex showed me a documentary about the Ramones.
It's almost as bad as Joe Pesci's rap album.
Oh my god, I love Joe Pesci's rap album. I would love that shit.
It's actually not that bad, but it's shocking to hear Joe Pesci doing it. It's so bad, it's good. It's
hey Henry, this was called Hey Henry, Am I Funny?
This next one is called Shoot the Rat.
Shoot the Rat. This one that died in a cornfield.
Oh my god. I always catch that scene in Casino. I see the first half of it when the dude gets his hand broken. Then I see Joe Pesci getting fucking violently murdered in the middle of a cornfield.
I always catch it at the tail end when Robert De Niro's car explodes and he just casually walks out of it.
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine. Don't fucking touch the suit.
Yeah, don't fucking touch me.
That's how he moved, too. Like, don't fucking touch me. I got it.
Nah, this is a really good series. This is what was it? The Extremely Wicked and Despisable or whatever.
Yeah,
the Ted Bundy one. Zac Efron being Ted Bundy, and this guy Evan Peters being Dahmer. I'm kind of curious what the next one's going to be.
I was kind of hoping that like in the Ted Bundy one when James Hetfield pulls him over the first time, I was kind of hoping the second cop is going to be Lars Ulrich. You know how fast you were going, man? Just coked out of his mind.
You could have got whiplash.
Lars, god damn it. No.
Fuck you. Just fuck you. He's just doing it the whole time. And then you see Dave Mustaine walking and he's like, I can do the job. I'll do it.
No, because that's how you start taking over
fuck
shit.
Both you guys.
Get the fuck out. Get the fuck out. I knew it was a problem when we let James Hetfield in here because he brings you fucking assholes.
Yeah.
Every fucking time. It's like you driving a fucking clown car. You'll pile into that 3-seater Mini Cooper he's got. I didn't think he was driving a Mini Cooper, to be honest with you.
I did see a joke about Ted Bundy. It's just like, you know, everybody talks about how handsome he was. You know his greatest fucking achievement was pulling all that pussy in that fucking VW, in that little yellow VW.
A fucking Volkswagen. He drove across country in a Volkswagen.
And then he stole another one that looked exactly like it. Yeah. Victims of circumstance.
Victims of circumstance, happenstance, and coincidence. Probably ran over Jim Jones' foot with that Volkswagen.
Yeah.
And
I would have loved.
He makes I feel like Jim Jones would make a thing where it's like you have to drive a certain car and Volkswagen is not on the fucking list. If I see anybody in a Volkswagen
you
Beetle.
talk about Jim Jones, 1977 when Gacy's, kicking ass and fucking where he's at. Can you imagine if he had just went over to Indianapolis for like a day trip and went to see the People's Temple back in and been like, holy shit, this is kind of my vibe, I kind of like this. And just it's like Jimmy's like, come on back, man. Let me talk to you.
Come on back.
There you go, big boy. How big a boy are you?
Careful, don't sit in that chair. You might cause it to break.
You fat fuck.
It just keeps making fat jokes. Gacy's just getting more fucking mad.
And that's why he's wearing glasses. He just punched his fucking lights out. He's got a giant braid. Now he's got to wear the wife beater glasses.
Why do you wear those? Because Gacy hits like a bitch.
Yeah.
What?
I know an old bitch named Eileen that hits harder than him.
I don't think you should be talking about Mr. Gacy like this, Mr. Jones. Fuck him. He's in prison. What's he gonna do? Write me a very strongly worded letter? I'll send him a fucking packet of Flavor Aid.
Yeah. Shout out to our Discord. We actually have someone in the Discord who mentioned. I gotta put this out here because I thought it was funny as fuck. It was in our Cryptid Conspiracy Cult. Waffle House Wizard said this and say, so where's my new episode? I need it. I've drank the Flavor Aid. Well, Mr. Waffle House Wizard, the shout out's for you in the Discord.
Or the great beyond if you drank the right Flavor Aid.
And I'm sorry my bullshit is letting you down, as he quotes. He says, this motherfucker can't believe this bullshit Chris is letting me down.
Jesus Christ, you're like a crack dealer.
We got a friend, man. We got a fan. This episode goes out to you, brother.
Real man of genius. Mr. Waffle House Wizard.
I'm more of an IHOP magician.
Get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here. You're as bad
We make burgers.
You're as bad as yeah, why don't you go make burgers with the fucking Denny's druid?
Yeah. Oh, man. Oh, God. Yeah, this is like when you go to like West Virginia, you just don't see any Waffle House or Denny's. You just see fucking Tudor's Biscuit World.
What the fuck even is that?
Oh, get this shit. So just the little down memory lane. I went to Fayetteville, West Virginia to see Bridge Day. People paraglide or jump off this fucking bridge. Yeah. It's 6 o'clock in the fucking morning. The whole thing's about to start.
Fucking Christ.
I walk into a Tudor's Biscuit World to get a sandwich, and I didn't really pay attention because I just slept in my car across the street and just wandered over there. I didn't realize it until I kind of like rubbed my eyes and had a drink, and I looked around and I'm like, holy shit, it's the ATF, the NTSB, fucking SBI, the fucking ATF, the DEA, agents from like the Alphabet Squad. We're all in this motherfucker.
Alphabet Squad.
Like all these every fucking almost
every agency,
sheriffs, everybody. We're here because it's a bridge that has a festival on it. There was a Huey flying over and shit. I'm just like, that's a lot of different agencies.
I bet the CIA guys were the ones smoking inside.
Yeah, it was just like, I saw all these guys, and my buddy Quinn was outside, dude. I'm like, I just had breakfast with the government.
I had breakfast.
The man.
I just had breakfast with basically where all of our tax money's going to.
Yeah.
Turns out a lot of them eat like shit.
Yeah. A lot of pork biscuits.
A lot of pork biscuits. And like, you're wondering why these guys
That's what we call the cops in Milwaukee, pork biscuits.
I didn't know they made fucking police uniforms in quadruple XL. Who are you running after?
Wow, that's a big stab vest. That's more of a stab robe.
That's great. They make moo-moos out of Kevlar now.
Just like seeing Bobby Bacala put on a fucking vest. It's just like, where did you find that fucking thing?
Oh, the hunting vest, all the orange where he just busts out laughing. He doesn't even say anything. He just starts laughing at him and walks out.
And he's like, what? It's safety. Shut the fuck up.
I got my limits too, Junior.
Yeah. Well, this episode's for you, Waffle House Wizard. Thanks everybody for listening. We'll be back again with another Cryptid Conspiracy Cult and Couch Potatoes, something good for you, and maybe something a little bit new on the back end that's coming up.
Something bad for you.
Something bad for you.